Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all good and well. So in this video I'm going to be doing another triple album review like I did a few weeks back, and this gives me an opportunity really to review albums that I've missed or that I haven't yet reviewed. And there are three here, two which were released last week on Friday and one which was released back on the 11th of March, and it's that release that I'm going to be tackling first. This is the debut album by the black metal band Aphelion and their release Moribund, which came out on Edge Circle Productions, and it's 10 tracks and 58 minutes in length. And I would say this is probably one of the best black metal releases, if not the best black metal release I've heard so far this year. A really fantastic album. Considering particularly this is apparently a debut album. I don't know much about Aphelion, but wow, this was really impressive pretty much from the start of this album to the very end. Highlights of this include tracks like Gear, which was the second track on the album. Starts off pretty slow and kind of with those nice kind of clean sounding guitar notes. Before you get that screaming, it changes into this really pulsating, fantastic rhythm and combo of drums and guitars. And then towards the end of the track, it builds into this really nice melodic section as well, with a fantastic climbing guitar solo, which kind of is the icing on the cake of a great track on this album. But there are lots of other great cuts on here to mention, like Let the Beast Run Wild. This Night Seems Endless gave us something a bit more ominous and a bit more doomy sounding, as a bit of a break in the middle of the album from the more kind of blast beat style black metal stuff. He Who Saw the Abyss gets the album back to a really faster, thriving pace again, once again, with lots of great changes in that track. I liked The Origin as well, which kind of had a good combination of guitar solos and some thrashier tendencies that you got in the bridge of that song as well. This album, it's genuinely a really good album, which I think combines a bit of a kind of immortal style with the instrumentation and sort of tribulation vocals, like Johannes Anderson, I would say. You get that sort of vocal style combined also with heavy metal sort of sounds, maybe from, or heavy metal style riffs from the kind of new wave of British metal era, or new wave of British heavy metal era even, and some really good hooks on offer at many points in this album too. This is a really pretty awesome, as I say, release from Aphelion. I'm going to be giving this album a 9 out of 10. Next up, we have the Dream Widow self-titled album, which came out last week on Friday. This is, of course, Dave Grohl's sort of side project from the Foo Fighters, and this was 8 tracks, 42 minutes in length, came out on RCA Records. And, you know, he's no stranger, really, to dabbling in a bit of metal. We saw Dave Grohl do that before with Probot back in 2004. He's also been a kind of metal inclined since even before his Nirvana days. So this isn't as surprising as it may seem that he's gone all out here with a pretty solid, it has to be said, a really solid album with lots of good groove, lots of good riffs and hooks as you go from track to track here. There's also some pretty memorable choruses. And whilst, you know, I would say this is a very solid metal album, it didn't necessarily offer a huge amount that felt new either. It wasn't kind of breaking any new boundaries for me. It did feel at times a little familiar, but in spite of that, as I say, it felt like a very accomplished metal album. And there were some great songs on here, like Cold, which was kind of offered a chunky riff with a really catchy chorus. March of the Insane similarly gave us a bit of an Anthrax-like groove. So if you're more into your thrash metal, I think you probably like March of the Insane. A Sweet Abyss also was, you know, quite an interesting track with some different kind of vocal touches, which gave the track a nice little nuance to it. And I really enjoyed that one with its kind of grungier style as well. And yeah, there's quite a lot of good songs on offer from this self-titled release by Dream Widow. I'm inclined, as I say, whilst I found it was pretty impressive, didn't necessarily offer a huge amount that I felt was new either or necessarily breaking any boundaries, but I do think it's a very solid release for that reason, and giving Dream Widow's self-titled a 7.5 out of 10. Finally, for the third album review, I'm tackling the Animals as Leaders album at Parisia, which came out on the 25th of March, again last week on Friday. This is their 5th album, which was released via Sumerian Records, and this one is 9 tracks and 37 minutes in length. And this is a really kind of all-out, pretty technical, some flourishing displays of drums, lead guitar, electronics, and that gent style groove as well on this album, which is, such at times a wild technical jam. It could be perhaps more off-putting for those of you that perhaps less into this kind of instrumental, full-on style of, instrumentation that you get for all of these 9 tracks. But in spite of this, I do think that Aphelion managed pretty well to pull off enough there's enough kind of central themes at times in the tracks that you're just about able as a listener to kind of hold on to enough in this album to still quite enjoy it. And I think that's what's impressive about this release, is that it has managed to balance, I think, enough of memorability with the sort of technical wizardry of each track. I really liked actually how they gave you a bit of a break in the middle with Asahi, which was a short from Welcome Break the Madness, nice synthy soundscapes to that track, which gave you a bit of atmosphere. Thoughts and Prayers also offered up some really nice welcome melodic leads into the mix. Perhaps the highlight for me on this album actually was one of the earlier tracks, Monomyth, which I liked made the really good use of the combination of electronics with those technical guitar passages, creating a kind of interesting sci-fi, both suspenseful and yet engaging track at the same time. So as a whole, really did actually quite enjoy this release by Parisia, but it was only 37 minutes in length, and you did feel that at times that it was kind of a slightly over the top. It was such an intense kind of, I call it a kind of technical jam, because there were a lot of really kind of technically intense passages of music, which without vocals, you can notice very quickly any even sort of like repetition in sound. And it's because there's that style adopted quite a lot in this album, whilst, as I say, I think they did quite well keeping it relatively fresh. You do notice that sort of those elements, those repeating guitar doodles quite a bit in this album. I'm giving this Animal Monsters Leaders. I do appreciate its ambitiousness and its tightness, so I'm still going to give this one a pretty good score of a 7 out of 10. So what did you guys all think of these 3 albums? Please feel free to drop those in the comments. And just a reminder from me that I, of course, have the Meshuggah album review coming up on Friday. Followed pretty soon afterwards on Saturday, I'll be premiering my top 20 albums of 2018, which I'm really looking forward to do, as I've said before, because I just thought 2018 was a great year for music generally, particularly I thought for progressive and technical metal. So that's it from me, guys, for this video. As always, if you're new to my channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe and all that business as well. I just thought I'd plug that in at the end there. Otherwise, from me, take care, everybody. Have great evenings, and bye for now.